Beyond the Pelvis is hosted by Dr. Keneal Siegel, a pelvic floor PT and intuitive healer, and Laura Haraka, a somatic practitioner and breathwork facilitator. Each week, we explore alternative and holistic approaches to healing chronic pelvic pain and other painful or chronic conditions. Join us and other experts in mind, body, and spiritual healing as we discuss a wealth of modalities ranging from ancient practices to modern therapies that challenge the conventional Western model of treatment. Let's get right to it. Welcome back to another episode, brand new season 2. We're doing things a little bit different this season. In today's episode, we're speaking with Urvi Shah. She's a certified mindfulness coach and spiritual healer, a woman that has been through so many career changes from teaching to consulting large and multi-billion-dollar corporations on leadership. And she now has navigated through life, have the understanding the secret of living a stress-free life, and her purpose with her practice is to pass the awareness to the masses to uplift all. We are especially excited to speak with Urvi because she is a former patient of mine. We worked together several years ago, and we wanted to have her on to talk about her journey and that experience and how that led to who she is today. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this. And you already know this, like your energy is just so contagious that anytime I'm around you, I'm just, I feel so happy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Urvi. I can't wait to talk to you today.
Yeah,
I think I could use some tips on how to live a stress-free life, though, too.
Yeah, we'll talk afterwards.
But yeah, we could absolutely talk about that during the episode because, I feel like it's important. And that was something we did talk about while we worked together. So why don't you go ahead and just share a little bit more about yourself and your history and who you are today?
Yeah, so I'm going to take this back to let's say 10 years ago. And that's really when I started my journey with fertility. That's when I was really like, okay, so I'm 39 right now. So 10 years ago was 29. I was like, all right, like the maternity clock is ticking. I should think about having a baby. Like, let's see what my possibilities are, right? And I always knew that there was something not right with my pelvic floor, like something going on over there. I just never knew. I had a lot of anxiety, and I was very scared to go to gynecologists because every time I would go, it would be very painful for me. And so I just refused to go. And so, at 29, I kind of was like, all right, I'm not going to go. Fast forward to being like 31. Finally went to a gynecologist because I was like, it's time for me to kind of figure out what I want to do with, like, can I get pregnant? Like, what are my options? And that led me on a long journey of figuring out I have something called vaginismus. So I went through many different gynecologists to even figure out that I have this problem. Initially, the gynecologists I went to kind of were like, well, are you having sex? I'm like, no, it's very painful for me. I'm actually not doing anything that requires penetration or inserting anything into my vagina because it's very painful. Like, and not only was it painful, but there was a lot of like, I think after some time, I had a lot of trauma and anxiety around it because I knew it was going to be painful. So that anticipation of the pain caused a lot of anxiety for me to even try. Luckily, found a really great gynecologist that was like, okay, well, this is a real thing. You're not the only one. There's other women out there that have this condition and it's fixable. You can go to a pelvic floor therapist. I was about 32 at this time. And I actually just went through insurance, like, who's covered in my insurance. And I ended up going to this facility. It was in a hospital. And I just felt like they didn't, like, it was just very cold. It's like the whole feeling again of like, this is very traumatic. And I was like, I felt very defeated at that point. I'm like, I'm just not going to have a baby. I'm not going to have sex. Like, let's just cross it off. But like, it just didn't feel right within my being and within my soul because I knew that being a mother was a bigger part of my story of like my purpose of like why I'm here in life. And so from there, I met Keneal. Actually, I started like Googling, like, okay, like how, like, is there somebody that can help me that is a lot more holistic and like caring and empathetic? And so I found her practice. I called her, and I remember the first question I asked her is like, "Do you think you can cure me?" And she's like, with confidence, "Yes." And I'm like, "Okay, you're hired." And so I went to her, and I remember my very first session with her, which is we just talked about it, and she asked me all of these questions about like the trauma actually around it, my mindset, how am I feeling, like my stress. Like we really talked about everything in my life and not just like the physical aspect of it. And one of the main things that I learned from her is like everything's connected, spirit, mind, and body, right? And even in our body, everything's connected. So like for example, I've dealt with like lower back issues or hip issues, which me and her worked on. She's like, "Oh, well, that could be a very big reason why there's muscles in your pelvic floor that are tightening." And like, just like opened my mind to so many different things. We use mindfulness practices, like breathing exercises as well. I absolutely feel like that experience opened me to something different. Like I feel like I went through a spiritual transformation at that time as well because my womb space was opening up and healing. And I feel like that did something to like my divine feminine spirit inside of me, which actually led me to the work I'm doing now. Like I before then was not a mindfulness coach at all. I wasn't a coach at all. I was working corporate and like this like really led me to living my life the way I am right now and the purpose of like helping other women that could be going through fertility or pregnancy or postpartum issues, like just helping them through their journey and navigating them through my own story.
Yeah, I remember when we were working together. I remember you working corporate, and I remember it being really stressful for you. And I'm like, I can't tell her to quit her job because people need to work and make money. And for me, it felt like, okay, at some point, she's going to open up to who she really is. So it was interesting that you mentioned that you felt like your whole womb space opened up. And I remember specifically doing a whole meditation with you where we like
Mhm,
repainted
mhm,
your womb space. It was like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And we
mhm,
changed it. I don't know. I felt
mhm.
like a shift happened after that. So,
Yeah, I think that there was also a shift in my mind about intimacy and sex in general. And so, I'm Indian, so I come from a background where we don't really talk about sex at all. It's very taboo. There's no conversations about it at all. So I had like no sex education growing up besides like whatever you learn in school, which is, let's be honest, nothing. And my previous relationships prior to my marriage were very traumatic in the sense of like there was a lot of pressure on me to have sex all the time and I couldn't. And that did something to me as well on a emotional level. And I feel like when we were working together, a lot of the trauma was also around that, just knowing that I'm enough just the way I am and I don't need to be something more
mm,
because I can't do something, right? And I remember having that specific conversation of like intimacy, like the levels of intimacy and how like penetration is the very last step, but like there's so many other ways that you can still be intimate with your partner.
exactly.
That's amazing. I love that. And I'm just curious to be clear, was the conclusion that the two of you made that this condition developed due to stress, trauma, and possibly background and beliefs?
It could have been. I mean, I have no idea because I've had it as a child. I remember my earliest memory is I was about like 13 or 14 and I wanted to go to a pool party and my mom was got me a pack of tampons and I was like, "Mom, it hurts too much." And she had no idea, right? And so she's like, "Okay, like maybe you're just not inserting right. It's okay." And I was like, "You know what? I just don't want to worry about it. I'm not going to go in the pool. It's not a big deal, Mom." And so I never like really brought it up after that because I didn't have any awareness around like what it could be. But going back and reflecting, I think a lot of it just had to do with the trauma, could have been the stress, but I think maybe like, my mom was telling me as she was growing up, there were a lot of things that were painful for her as well. And so I don't know if like I want to say from a spiritual perspective, I feel like I was carrying a lot of like the generational trauma from my mom and my grandmother. And for that reason, like I had this condition. But like from a physical medical standpoint, I don't know. I could have been many different things. But all I know is like my earliest memory of even trying, I've always had this. Like it's always been something that I've had.
Generational trauma is real.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious too, and maybe this question is for you as well, Camille. After meeting Urvi, what did your work look like together then? Being a
Mm,
mind, body, and spirit
right. Good
person.
question. It's so individual dependent. I mean, as Irvi knows, in the first visit, we're talking quite a bit because I want to get as best as I can an idea of like what brought you here in this room, us together in the first place. And if it's, I hear a lot of stress around work, I hear a lot of trauma around family or past relationships or whatever the case might be, then it's really about, okay, how can we peel back the layers to get to the core of the issue? And there's so many different layers, right? It could have been the generational trauma, as you mentioned. It could have been the stress, the relationships, the pressure. It could have been all of these things, but it's just about addressing each layer. And then at some point, getting to the core of it all. And to me, the core of it is like, who are you really? Like, let's take
Mhm.
everything out of the picture. Who are you? How do you find your joy? What brings you life? All of these things. So it's hard to say what that looked like. People want a definite, like, what did you do on day one or day two or week
Mhm.
8 or whatever it is, but it's really however long it takes to peel back the layers. And Irvi was one of my best patients because she was so receptive and open to it. And I remember, when I would like tell her things, sometimes she'd be like, I know this. And I'm like, I know you do. I like I know you do. And it's just the reminder of here's the thing, right? That you're not doing that you already know. Now go do it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a lot of different things. So if I was to like put it into like something tangible, we did a lot of the mindfulness stuff, like the meditations, the breathing exercises. I had the dilators at home that I would do with the breathing exercises and meditation. So like one of the things that I learned from Camille was you have to create a safe environment because one of the reasons why um I wasn't having fun being intimate or having sex or getting to that point was because it didn't feel safe to me, given, all of my trauma from it. And so that was the first thing that I really worked on with myself. We did like different exercises of opening up my hips. There were some Pilates that we did as well. And I had a foam roller at home that I would practice with. And then she gave me like other exercises to do with my husband, like journaling things with him or like doing different exercises with him, getting him involved in the process. I think that that last piece I want to say is like probably the key factor to all of this because majority of it was I was doing it in like on my own time, but like I needed to be open with him about my journey and like needed his support because that created, once again, that safe space for me to heal from this journey. A lot of it was like, oh, like, I don't know if he feels a certain way because we're not able to be intimate or have sex. A lot of guilt. I lived with a lot of guilt and then I put it on him. There was a lot of insecurity inside of me. And so, like, opening up to him and having his support and taking him on the journey because he also is Indian and never talked about sex just like me growing up. And so, I think that really opened up our marriage as well. And, fast forward now, I'm a mom
Yeah.
and, it all kind of panned out.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I do want to mention, the things that we did. It wasn't, I'm a mind body spirit therapist. That's how I work. So there is going to be some physical things involved. Like we opened up the hips, there was some myofascial release, massaging, mobilization, strengthening, all of those play a part. There's not one right answer for all the things, right? It's a combination of things. So it's a combination of there's the physical stuff, there's the emotional stuff and the mental stuff and the spiritual stuff as well. And we really were able to bring in the spiritual piece because it was such an important part of your upbringing. It was just part of who you were already. I don't even,
Yeah.
I'm sure you recognize it, but it was already there. So it was just about like reclaiming that, I guess, is the
Hmm.
best word I can think of for it. But it really is a whole process, holistic, true holistic. It's all the things, mind, body, and spirit. It's bring in all the things and do the best that we can. And for other people, it may look more physical or it may look more emotional. It just depends on the person and what's going on.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a lot of overcoming the fear. Because as I mentioned, for me, and this is with anything that is physical for me, I'm not scared of the actual thing. I'm scared of the anticipation of the pain that may come. And so it's the fear of it, right? And so a lot of the mindset work that I worked with you was about releasing that fear. And then from a spiritual perspective, understanding what fear is and where that was coming from and how it was stored in my body energetically. So from then on, like my journey continued about how do I overcome fear and release that energy from my body.
I love that you said one of the keys to healing was sharing your story with your husband.
Mhm.
And it's like when you have a secret, right? And you're holding on to everything, your body feels so tight. But when finally you can share your story and be vulnerable, and it's about sharing your story in safe places where you can overcome the fear. Because when we can share the fear and find connection, it can be extremely freeing.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that, he always knew that something was going on. And so it wasn't like I ever did, I like was kind of bearing this in my own space, but to take him on the journey of like the actual exercises I was doing or explain to him like, hey, like how can we be more intimate, but we don't have to get to the point of penetration because that's going to help me create that relationship with you and just being open with him about like the actual pain, like what's actually going on in my mind, the anxiety around it really helped me. It's not that I didn't think that he didn't understand. It just helped me because it took away whatever guilt I had that I was putting on myself that I thought that he might be thinking.
Yeah, what you were able to do is share the burden, right? Like we do that. We put this big old burden on ourselves, thinking that no one else should have this. And it's like people are open to it. Your partner is open to sharing the burden with you, not to like, let's hold on to it together and not do anything about it, but like, let's share it and then work through it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you were able to do that so well. And congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember when we were ending our time together, I had asked you like you were like, no, you're good. I wasn't like ready to let go. I'm like, are you sure I'm good? And you're like, yeah, you're good. Like trying to push me out the door in the sense of like, how a teacher pushes a student on, like, you've learned everything. Like now go live your life. Like that's how I felt. And I did. I feel like, I really healed a big part of me when I was coming to you. Like I enjoyed those sessions so much. But then afterwards, it's like I practiced it, continuously practiced it. And I even during my pregnancy, I remember when we were getting closer to birth, I'm like, let me remember what I did with Camille. Let me remember those breathing exercises because like there was a lot of anxiety around giving birth as well for me. And whatever I learned during that time, like really helped me, even about learning about like, okay, like knowing the pelvic floor and how to breathe and how to open it and, you know, when I was going through contractions, like what are some of the things I can do? Like because I had that education prior, I was able to kind of cope with all of
What I'm thinking right now is, damn, why didn't I have Keneal when I was going through my journey?
that.
I needed her.
Yeah.
Aw, it's beautiful. Thank you for your kind words. But yeah, it's great. It's a journey. And what I try to teach people is this information, knowledge, it's not just for right here and right now because it's applicable to life. Because it's not just the physical, right? Like it's so much more than that. And there are going to be other times where you feel fear, right? Like it came up during your pregnancy, then it's really just going back to, okay, I've done this before. I've overcome fear. How did I do that? And using that to work through the steps. You can do that for anything, for a transition in life. I mean, you switched careers. That it's likely fear and anxiety came up then. And it's just about utilizing the tools. And the more that you use and apply it, the easier it gets. It's just easier when it comes to just life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I still use some of the hip opening exercises and things like that, especially after I gave birth because everything felt so strange. I had a C-section, by the way. It was an emergency C-section. So as I was recovering from my C-section, a lot of the things I was doing was like foam roller, like everything felt tight, like, and so I feel like all of that was from the time we spent together and everything I learned from you.
Yeah. And some people are surprised to know I do these things on a regular basis every day myself as well. Like I'm constantly on the floor and stretching and, yoga is a big part of my practice. And Laura, you do breath work. I do breath work as well. Like these are things, this is just how we human, like we need
Mhm.
to do these things on a regular basis. So the things that I teach and where you learn anywhere, even Laura, the things that you do, it's not just for this moment to get through difficult times, it's for life. So it becomes part of your lifestyle.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And just so you know, I do breath work every day. And I also get on the floor every day and do certain hip exercises myself where I need to stretch my body. It's what's beneficial for me and what my body needs. So I practice it almost every day.
Now you touched on it already, right? About your personal experiences, like how this has sort of spilled over into your personal experiences. Like you use some of the same techniques during your pregnancy, after your pregnancy. But can you just share how else your overall experience, has shifted or changed or shows up in your life today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a completely different person. So when I walked into your office, I was a very anxious, stressed, non-confident person. And like I can't even imagine who I am today compared to that woman because like I'm totally different. I feel like a lot of the healing that I went through that time has helped me to be who I am, but I still use it, right? It's not like I've completely healed and there's nothing wrong with me. Like now I'm going through a whole different journey of being a new mom and I still have anxiety being a new mom. I went through postpartum depression. So there were a lot of things that I went through recently where I still use, like you said, it's a lifestyle. So like I have to check in with myself still about, I mentioned the exercises, but even mindfulness, like even though I'm a mindfulness coach during my postpartum, the first few weeks, it was very hard for me to even get into a space of practicing meditation or breath work or knowing I need to regulate my body. I mean, a lot of the work that we did together was about learning about the nervous system and how that affects and impacts our muscles, right? How we tighten up and all of that. And it's like, I know everything, but I wasn't able to actually practice it. And so now it's like, I have to really schedule it in because, like we were talking about before, if I don't, I know I'm a different person. Like, I will just be very snappy and like not be who I am because I haven't taken the time out to be regulated. So that's a big part of it. But I think another aspect is I want to say that I was very lost on my journey of life when I walked into your office. And I'm like on my path. Like my path is very clear about what I'm supposed to do in life now. And in that aspect, I feel like everything is aligned personally in my life because I aligned myself to my own mind, body, and spirit. I was able to really put that in the center. And over the years, things have just aligned to a place now personally where whatever I'm doing for myself, like it's a reflection, right? And so when you're going through something internally, it's going to reflect in your external reality. And so a lot of the things that I work on now is like, how can I like go back in and work on myself? Like if I'm like, arguing with my husband or something, like, okay, how can I just pause, take a deep breath and see if something's going on inside of me? And a lot of that was from what we talked about when we were working together.
Thank you for sharing that. It's like the simple things that we aren't generally taught in this, I'll say society, right? Because it's like the hustle culture, like we're always busy and doing and going,
Mhm.
that it seems ridiculous to stop and ask yourself, how am I really feeling? Or what am I feeling? That's not promoted or talked about enough. And it's like, it's the simple things. It's doing the simple things that can help sometimes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, would you mind sharing a little bit more about where you are now as far as your mindfulness coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started this practice about 4 years ago. And as I went through my own transformation, this business has grown and evolved into what it is now. And actually, I'll also mention this with the time that I work with you. Like, so I've always like been into mindfulness. My parents taught me when I was very young. I never really cared about it. I think because it's one of those things I took for granted because I was so close to it. And then when we worked together, you reminded me again of like all of those practices. I was like, wow, this is really powerful. And so I went and I got certified in meditation and breath work and EFT tapping. And so a lot of the work that I do now is with women that are going through their journey of motherhood. And so if they're on their journey of becoming a mom, if they're on their journey of their fertility journey, or they're going through pregnancy, or if they're going through postpartum. And so because of my own journey. So, obviously we talked about my vaginismus. I went through IVF to get pregnant because, the whole trying to get pregnant naturally just wasn't working. And it was good that we went through IVF because I had a lot of issues with my egg quality and egg reserve. And so we kind of didn't even know if it was going to work. It's a miracle in itself. And I thank God every day when I see my son because he's the less than 1% chance of making it to this world. And I absolutely know that like God answered my prayers. So that, but then, I talked about I had postpartum depression and anxiety as well. And so through my own story, through my own journey, meaning I've navigated so many facets of like the process of being a mom, but I've used so many different tools. And so what I want to do now is kind of create a community of women that I can help kind of teach those things and like look at things from a different perspective. And for me, I've understood that a lot of the trauma that we're holding on to is just energy stored within us. And if we can release that energy, if we can heal that energy and put ourselves into a different frequency where we are a lot more joyous, a lot more happy, we're in gratitude, like that can really change our story and the way that we are not only impacting ourselves, but those around us. And for me, that's what it is. It's building this community of conscious mothers that are able to, then bring that consciousness forward to the next generation and the next generation.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, using your journey and now sharing all the tools and skills you learned to help other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I'm just curious, what would be from your journey one of the biggest lessons that you learned or that you could share with people?
Good question. I would say my biggest lesson is about finding who you are. I feel like my journey, um, though I went in for a very physical medical condition, it was about finding who I was and what my purpose was. And I always knew that I wasn't intended on living this stressful life of like working all the time and like not being happy with like where I am in my personal life. Just, kind of doing everything that we're told to do in society. Like I just wasn't made for that. But I continued to do it because I felt like I had to do it. And obviously that fear was there as well. And so for me, it was being open to other possibilities, other things that are there that my mind did not want me to believe, but my soul already knew. And so it's like I always say like this journey of me healing vaginismus was me finding my way back to my soul. Yeah.
That makes it sound so easy. I think it is actually that easy. I really do. I think it is easy. Or what's the saying? It's easy, not simple, or simpler, not easy. Either way, that's it. That's really it. It's just about aligning, as you said, like your soul already knew, but your mind didn't. It's really just about aligning your mind with your body, with your soul, because you want to get them to work together because that's when life really takes off for you. That's when things start to
Yeah.
happen where you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming, or wow, that happened much faster than I expected it to, or whoa, they told me that was not possible and look at me doing it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
you
and I mean, at
build,
that time, I had no idea that I would get pregnant. I like had completely given up hope.
yeah.
Um, and I feel like I continued to fight that battle with my mind. It wasn't really with the doctors or anything like that. It was really just with myself that I can do this. Like even when I was going through IVF, I had to be open to the possibility of something else because, trying to get pregnant naturally just wasn't working for me and my husband for many different reasons, for our lifestyle, for other things. And at the time that we went into considering IVF, I was 30, 37, 38. I kind of was like, I don't want to wait until I'm like 45 to have a child. Like, we just have to try this out at this point. And I really opened myself up. Like, I opened myself up to like, okay, we're going to try this. This is going to work. Surrender. Surrender is a big part of my journey. And I think it was a big part of what I learned with working with you. Like, I just completely surrendered to things being different or things working out for me instead of letting my mind tell me that this is not going to work because I was scared of something.
So I don't want to put you on the spot or anything,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious. You said you live a stress-free life.
Yeah.
What's the biggest takeaway that you can give our listeners how you do that? Or even give to me?
Yeah, sure. So I'll say I try to live a stress-free life. There are days that I'm still very stressed. I am still human. And like we talked about earlier, as a human, we go through many things in life, but I think I find peace in those things now. So for me, I've gotten to a point where I know that things can be challenging, things can be hard, but that's just an aspect of the human life that I've chosen, my soul has chosen. And one of the things that I love to do is when I wake up in the morning, I kind of do my breathing exercises just to ground myself. But then I ask myself, like, what is really going to make me happy today? And most of the time, it's like something stupid, like I want to go for a walk, I want to be in the sun, I want to paint. And like I try to do whatever I wrote down because that's compounding day to day, right? Like you're writing things that are going to make you happy on a day-to-day basis and you're prioritizing your joy, which eliminates you from being in that energy of stress.
We have talked about this so many times on this podcast too. It's like just shifting your mindset. What do you focus on? Because where you focus, that's where the energy goes. So if you're focusing on the negatives and the pain, and that's what you're going to experience more of. But if you just do the simple things, focus on your joy and gratitude, you're going to get more of that.
Yeah, gratitude is a very big one. I want to say in the last, 2 years, I've met some of the most beautiful humans ever. And I feel like a lot of that has come from the simple practice of gratitude and asking for support from, my spirit team, from my angels, God, whatever you want to call your power, your higher power, and just being grateful for that. Like I feel that a lot of my stress-free life comes from the fact that I know that I'm taken care of at all points in time. Like there's not a point in time when I'm not supported, I'm not taken care of, because over and over again, like some stranger will come into my life and then they'll play such a big impact, but they're carrying something that I'm like, where did you come from? And I feel like it's because I've shifted my energy to allow those miracles to continuously happen in my
That's
life.
amazing. It's kind of like just knowing the universe has your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, is there anything else, I'm just curious, you'd like to add or to share that maybe we didn't hit on that could be useful to someone right now that's either a new mom or healing from any kind of pelvic pain condition or any other condition out there?
Yeah, I would say just try it out. I have he's actually a very, very good friend. I would say he's my soul brother now, but he's also my fitness coach. He's my trainer. But he, with the thought of practicing gratitude, always tells me like, Urvi, remember, we're being open. We're gonna try new things, to keep reminding me because he knows that if I'm scared of something, I'm not gonna try it. And so that's my advice to everybody else that's listening. Like just try it out without actually judging it. And then if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You can give it up. Like your body's going to know if it's not for you, but don't make a judgment without trying something because you're scared of it or because you feel like it's going to hurt you or any of those things, right? Like try to work through the fear. And a really good way to work through it is just by practicing it, like just doing the thing that you're afraid of. Like And I guess that would be my advice. And as a new mom, I would say one of the best advice I can give is like, you're not going to know everything all of the time. And so just be comfortable with not knowing and allowing things to happen. Like be in that flow energy of like, okay, things will happen. Like I cannot tell you how many days I have planned things and they don't plan out the way I've planned it. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna pivot. It reminds me of the Friends episode when they're pivoting the sofa. It's like that's my life right now. I'm constantly pivoting to something else, but it's like I don't get frustrated about it. I don't get angry about it. I'm like, okay, like I'm being redirected to do this. Like this is now my focus right now, and just kind of like flow with things, being more open.
Thank you for that. I know someone received that message. It was for them specifically. So thank you for sharing that. And can you share where people can find you in case someone wants to work with you for coaching, mindfulness coaching, especially if they are new moms?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My handle is Inner Serenity LC. The best place to find me directly because my website is linked there and like ways to work with me. I also have a podcast, but everything's linked in my Instagram, so you'll find it there. And I am releasing a new book about my journey. So a lot of the things that we talked about in today's podcast is in my book as well. So
That's so exciting. Congratulations. And
thank you.
thank you for sharing and being so open. From the very beginning, you were open to sharing, and I'm grateful for you for doing that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And I am really grateful for our conversation, your openness, and your vulnerability, because when we share our story, it really trickles down and helps someone else. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
If you'd like to leave us a message or ask a question, please check the show notes with the link so you can reach us directly, or email us at beyondthepelvis@gmail.com.